In 1957, America launched its first successful satellite into orbit, the rocket that carried it. Fueled by a chemical formula no one outside the government was allowed to talk about. And behind that formula was a woman whose name wouldn't appear in history books for nearly 50 years. Welcome to Inventing America, the podcast that uncovers the forgotten inventors who helped shape our world and then quietly disappeared into its margins. Today's episode is about a secret pioneer, a wartime chemist, and a woman whose classified contributions made the space race possible. This is Fuel for the Stars. Mary Sherman Morgan was born in 1921 in a rural farming town in North Dakota. She grew up in a strict German Catholic household and, despite graduating near the top of her class, was pulled from college due to financial strain and family obligation. But during World War II, industry needed chemists. Without a degree, but with raw ability, Mary was hired to work at a munitions factory where she handled volatile chemicals. She proved herself with precision and care, traits that would define her scientific work. After the war, she joined North American Aviation's propulsion lab in California, where she was one of very few women, and often the only one, in a room full of engineers and physicists. And that's where she invented something extraordinary. By the mid-1950s, the U.S. was under pressure. The Soviet Union had launched Sputnik, and America's rockets kept failing to leave the launch pad. The Army's Jupiter C rocket, led by Wernher von Braun, needed a more powerful fuel. Something more energetic, more stable, and more efficient. Mary, working almost entirely alone, developed a new liquid fuel mixture she called Hydine, a blend of unsymmetrical dimethylhydrazine and diethylenetriamine. It had better performance than the standard red fuming nitric acid propellants of the time. The fuel was tested, then classified. Only a handful of people knew who had developed it. But in 1958, Hydine launched Explorer 1, America's first satellite. Mary didn't appear on television. She didn't speak at press conferences. In fact, most of her work remained unknown for decades. Even her own children didn't know what she had done during her career. It wasn't until her son, George Morgan, wrote a play, and later a biography, that her story came to light. She had died in 2004, unaware that she would later be recognized as America's first female rocket fuel scientist. Mary Sherman Morgan never held a formal degree, never received public honors in her lifetime, and never published papers. And yet, her contribution helped shift the tide in the early years of the space race. Her story reminds us that innovation doesn't always come with spotlights. Sometimes, the people who move the world forward are working alone, in classified labs, with no thought of recognition. Sometimes, they're mothers, chemists, problem solvers. Sometimes, they're Mary Sherman Morgan. Thanks for listening to Inventing America. If this story moved you, subscribe and share. There's more to come. Next time, the electric car that could have saved the planet. 30 years before anyone cared. That's Episode 7. The man who built the future and was told to park it.